And we are live, and I dropped my headphones. Okay, here we go. So, this episode is going to be a ruminative deep dive into my personal observations of the human condition. And I plan to do episodes like this, especially when I go into the city and I spend time. And I just think that it's significant and brings value to be able to hear someone's perspective about what they're experiencing in the world. I think we are essentially walking subjective universes anyway, with our own phenomenological perspectives we carry, very unique to us and that are influenced by all these multitude of variables that we've been exposed to. So here's a funny thing. I actually asked AI, give me an alternative version of my title of this episode. And this is funny. I'm gonna read this out. So here's one version. In this episode, I wax philosophical on the complexities of modern life and society. Join me for a discursive exploration of some recent societal observations. And the third one, this was really funny. I didn't even know the word excursus existed until this moment. Here is an excursus on contemporary societal patterns and personal observations. All right, well, here we go. So, first thing I want to share, these kind of self narrative episodes, videos, I already had experimented with podcasting. I call it solo podcasting. I was too chicken to come in front of the camera, so it was mostly my audio that I published on Spotify. Didn't really market it. So it's there, it exists there. And I also did another one on another platform, which got sunset, it got closed down, but I downloaded all the audio files. I'll eventually upload it on Spotify. I've been procrastinating on that. When I was younger, I used to watch vlogs. I know that trend started a while back on YouTube. Funny enough, primarily I was watching vlogs of athletes and bodybuilders because it inspired and motivated me to try to incorporate some of their habits into my own life. And the reason being is because, um, as some of you may know, I practice weightlifting and I encourage all women to try doing that to whatever extent. You are not going to get bulky and get big muscles. Biologically, that's just not possible for women to get big muscles unless you get on steroids. So don't even worry about that. It is actually extremely beneficial for your health. I'm speaking because I come from a nutrition science background, and my first job that I got after I got my nutrition science degree was in the um, one of the clinical departments in a hospital in my local town, and the majority of the women, and it was actually the clinical dietetics department, and it was actually very heavily female dominated. And what was really interesting is that my boss at the time, obviously she had her master's in clinical dietetics, and she was ripped, like she was. I've never seen a woman with like such defined muscles. It was the first time that I had like a female boss that was muscular. It was impressive. And then also, I noticed some of my female colleagues who were also had a background in nutrition science or they were studying to become clinical dietitians. They were very disciplined about exercise and building muscle, and some of them were actually bodybuilders. And I remember this one specific um, colleague that I worked with. Her name was Vanessa, and actually, I was really inspired by her. She had her own CrossFit business, and she was so disciplined about being fit and eating right to an extent where during her lunch breaks at work, she would go out and run laps around the hospital building. That's how dedicated she was. And she was also a good person. She did a lot of stuff for charity. I just think that if you are constantly working out and taking care of yourself, you have endorphins flowing all the time. So therefore, you're in a good mood and you want to do good things for other people. So it makes sense. And so that got me into eventually podcasting myself. sharing my ideas, value that I got from the other people, um, sharing a window into their lives. And it was a way to share knowledge. It was a way to share perspectives, which I think is helpful. So I live, oh no, internet unstable. I don't know what it's going to do to the video recording. Let's find out. Let's see what else I have. So I live close to Manhattan, and I always come across such interesting people. I just want to share this one story of I had an appointment with a doctor in the city, and she was actually right. She was around my age, or maybe she may have been even younger. And I found out somehow we ended up having a conversation, and she was Greek, right? Ethnically, she was Greek, and I guess she felt comfortable sharing this with me, so she did. And she told me, "Hey, actually, yeah, I still live with my parents in Queens, and I commute here every day. It's a long commute, and I wouldn't choose to move closer. And here's why." It was really interesting that, I come from a South Asian culture, and I consider South Asian culture to be a collectivist culture. And collectivist cultures are, right, we love to have close ties with our family, community, which is all definitely a positive thing. And there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to individualist cultures. There's pros and cons to collectivist cultures. It's about attaining a balance. She got along with her family well. She had a whole community of, I guess, her Greek friends somewhere in Queens. And I know that in New York, there are pockets of areas in New York that are just demographically dominant of a certain culture, which is fascinating. Just like how you have Chinatown, Koreatown, I guess there is pockets where it's like Greek town and Indian town. And so her justification for still living there is that she was close to community, close to her parents and family that she loved, and she found satisfaction and joy and fulfillment in still living with her family and being around her community. And she spoke Greek fluently. She could speak and write Greek fluently. Greek is one of the ancient languages of human civilization, and actually learning languages like Greek and Latin helps medical students memorize a lot of the complex terminology even better. So that was an interesting story, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I would do the same thing as her. I'm not sharing this to say, oh, I think everybody has the right to make decisions what work for them. You don't have to live with your family if it doesn't work for you. But I know that there's a certain perspective that maybe the US culture has about still being with your parents. They may see that in a negative way, but hey, for some people it works. And I think that we should let people make decisions that bring them peace and fulfillment, even if you don't agree with it, as long as it's not harming other people around you, right? Um, but I understand that that's easier said than done sometimes. So personally, yeah, I would not live with my family. I think they would definitely drive me crazy. I love them very much. But yes, so I wanted to share that. And I really appreciate living close to a city like New York for this reason. And if you think about it globally, US is not a one tribe nation. US is a multi-tribe nation. And there are pros and cons. There's things we have to deal with that. If you look at countries like Japan, I remember going to Japan and I remember talking to a Japanese citizen, and he basically was like, yeah, we're a one tribe nation. We encourage more of the mindset and the philosophy of being one tribe, a homogenous population. And actually, it makes it easier for our nation to manage things that way. Not necessarily, but it does in a sense. And in the US, always found US to be this interesting laboratory that is just multi-ethnic, multicultural. And sometimes I am marveled by how we're able to make it work. Because if you think about multi-ethnic, multicultural, we're talking about multiple perspectives, multiple philosophies, clashing conflicts, right? And we certainly have that. But hey, we've been able to make it work. It's an amazing achievement of cooperation of different backgrounds. We don't really think about this on a daily basis. I don't think we do, but it's pretty cool that we're able to do that. And I hope that continues. And it's possible, especially in a place like New York. It is extremely multicultural here. And the fact that we're able to live among all these perspectives and sort of unite in our humanity is pretty remarkable. I'm sure we have our conflicts. I mean, it's not without it. But yeah, on my ramble here, just wanted to share that, inspired by my interaction with this Greek woman today. Thank you for tuning in.